Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Click to subscribe Believing Beings and press the bell icon to get notified about new videos.
You may do incest. Incest means having relationship, mother and son, father and daughter. Most of the incest I say in the state of intoxication. And the list is long if you have a full talk. The number of diseases you can have, cancer of esophagus, cancer of the head, and cancer of the liver, the list is very long. Fornication, adultery is common in human life. Sleeping with someone you have not married is no problem. In Islam, it's a big problem. Islam says in Surah Isra chapter 17 verse number 31, come not close to adultery, it's an evil opening other roads to evil. How does it start? Shaking hands. I'm not saying everyone who shakes hands does adultery, but no adultery starts without shaking hands, right or wrong? Can you mean you can do zina with a girl and a boy without shaking hands? Sister, can you think of it? In Islam, you cannot shake hands with an opposite sex who's a non-Arab. Haram. Yes, there's a non-Muslim girl. Yes, sir. Yes, sister, most welcome.
Hi, sir. Good evening. Sir,
Good evening.
I'm a
May peace be on
first-timer.
you. Yes, yes, no problem.
I'm a first-timer in this event, and
I'm also first-timer, sister.
and,
Even I'm first-timer. So we
and
both are on
I'm
the same
not,
page.
Yeah, and I'm a devoted Catholic. I just want to listen and understand before I go into something.
Yes, I like devoted
another.
Catholics because Quran says the devoted Catholics are closest to the Muslims.
Okay, Mike, I have questions, sir. Why is it that the liquor is prohibited, and if ever they drink in a liquor that is according to the standard amount of that liquor, what is the implications if they drink it? And my second question, sir, why there are haram foods for Islam, and if they have eaten it without their knowledge, what will happen to them? I mean, what is also the implications?
Sister, that's two questions. Number one, why is alcohol prohibited?
Why alcohol is prohibited?
It is not
And-
only alcohol. Yes.
And if they drink according to the standard amount of liquor, what will be the implication of being an Islam? What will happen to
I'll
them?
tell you that, sister. As I mentioned in my talk, Quran prohibits drinking alcohol in Surah Maida chapter 5 verse 90. Even the Bible prohibits the drinking of alcohol in the book of Ephesians chapter number 5 verse number 18, where it is mentioned, do not be drunk with wine. It's also prohibited in the book of Proverbs chapter number 20 verse number 1. So Bible prohibits alcohol in two places. You can note down if you want, if you're a devout Christian. If you're a devout Christian, Bible prohibits in two places, book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse number 18, and book of Proverbs chapter number 20 verse number 1. Now coming to your question, why does Islam prohibit alcohol? And if someone has alcohol within the limit, then what is the harm? Basic question. I'm being a medical doctor. I've given a full talk on why is alcohol prohibited. I've given a talk on scientific reasons for the dietary laws in Islam. It will take me as a medical doctor, I can list you hundreds of diseases only from alcohol. Time will not permit me. There are umpteen number of diseases. The main reason is that when you have alcohol, in the human body, there is an inhibitory center. Inhibitory center means, if I want to go to the toilet, my inhibitory center says, don't do it here, go to the restroom. My inhibitory is working. Now, when you have alcohol, the inhibitory center is inhibited. The inhibitory center, then you don't know what you're doing. You start using foul language, you start urinating in your clothes. That is when you get intoxicated. I'm coming to your questions. I'm coming. So, one of the reasons that alcohol is prohibited, because you don't know what you're doing. You may abuse your parents, you may use foul languages, you may do incest. You know, most of the incest are done. Incest means having relationship, mother and son, father and daughter. Most of the incest that I say in the state of intoxication. And the list is long if you have a full talk. The number of diseases you can have, cancer of esophagus, cancer of the head, and cancer of the liver, the list is very long. Coming to your question. What if I have alcohol in limits? In limits. Our Prophet says in Ibn Majah, hadith number 3993, 3994, 3992, that if anything intoxicates in large quantity, is prohibited even in small quantity. Anything which intoxicates in large quantity means you have a capacity, okay, fine, normally maybe half peg intoxicates you. So, okay, fine. I can have quarter peg, no problem. But the Prophet said anything which intoxicates in large quantity is even prohibited in small quantity. No excuse for nip or a tot. The reason is, today, because of alcoholism, do you know 2.5 million people die every year because of alcoholism? Because of alcoholism, according to WHO, 2.5 million people die because of alcoholism alone every year. Now coming to your question. When you ask any alcoholic, no alcoholic starts having alcohol to become alcoholic. He is first a social drinker. Social drinker means drinking within limits. You ask all the alcoholic, no alcoholic will say that I started drinking alcohol to become alcoholic. Maybe you'll find 1 in a million, maybe. So all of them start with that peg, half peg or quarter peg. It becomes 1 peg and 2 peg, depending whether it's whiskey or whether it's beer. Beer you can have more, whiskey you can have less. Our beloved Prophet said, no excuse for nip or a tot. If it intoxicates in large quantity, it's even prohibited in small quantity, and that is very logical. If this was the case, sister, if I'd agree with you, you wouldn't have 2.5 million people dying every year. Every year. In the last 10 years, 25 million people died. And if you interview them, they always started with half peg. So I'm asking you, if you're going to jump from a 2-story building or a 3-story building, the chances of dying is 50%. Will you jump? Will you jump? So the question is that if you're intoxicated, fine. There may be possibility that if you have alcohol, social drinker, you may not be as bad as health-wise. But imagine if you get drunk once in your life. I don't know a social drinker who has been drinking for 5 years and has not get intoxicated once in their life. You understand, no? If you get intoxicated once, by mistake you have extra peg, and then you do incest, can you forgive yourself? Sister, can you forgive yourself? Yes or no? Only once. Incest. Yes or no? So that's the reason Islam says it is prohibited for good. And that's the best. There may be, if logically I can agree with you, out of 10,000 people, there may be 3-4 people who will not get intoxicated, 3 or 4 people out of 10,000 people whose health will be very good. All the people's health are bad. Maybe 3-4 health is good, didn't get intoxicated. 3-4 out of 10,000, what is the risk? What is the risk? Can you take a risk? No. So that's the reason our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the Creator. He knows best what is good for us, right or wrong. So He has nipped it at the bud. Nipping at the bud means, don't let it happen. That's the reason in Islam, it says, I didn't complete my second part. Fornication, adultery is common in human value. No problem. Sleeping with someone you have not married is no problem. In Islam, it's a big problem. Islam says in Surah Isra, chapter 17, verse number 31, come not close to adultery. It's an evil opening other roads to evil. How does it start? Shaking hands. I'm not saying everyone who shakes hands does adultery, but no adultery starts without shaking hands. Right or wrong? Can you mean you can do zina with a girl and a boy without shaking hand? Sister, can you think of it? Can a fornication take place without shaking hands? I'm not saying every girl and boy who shakes hand does fornication. I'm not saying that. But every fornication starts with shaking hands. So what do? You stop, nip it at the bud. In Islam, you cannot shake hands with an opposite sex who's a non-haram. Haram. Why? It's going to spoil the family life. So Islam has the solution to the problems of humanity. So are you convinced, sister, that alcohol is prohibited? And if you're a devout Christian, even the Bible says you should not have. Do you have alcohol, sister? You have. So inshallah you'll stop it. Yes or no? Bible says even little is haram. Ephesians chapter 5 verse number 18. Proverbs chapter 20 verse number 1, giving you references. And you say you're a devout Christian. How can a devout Christian go against the Bible? Little. So little, undevout. I would like you to study Islam, sister. We believe that a person should follow the values of life. The topic is the world and human values. And this human values are practical, sister. And I do not have time to talk about the women's rights because the time was short, but you should hear my talk on women's rights in Islam, and inshallah you'll be convinced about the teachings of Islam. Thank you. Jazakallah shukran.